In this lesson, we're going to talk about simple interest, and you have some important vocabulary that you need to make sure that you know. Okay, so it says blank is a sum paid or charged for the use of money or for borrowing money. And so the answer to that, the vocabulary word, is interest. Anytime you can pay interest or you can earn interest. If you are borrowing money, you're going to have to pay interest. So like if you borrow, let's just say $1,000, you're not going to just have to pay back $1,000. You're going to have to pay interest or extra money on top of the $1,000 that you borrowed. You also can earn interest. When you invest money, if you have money like in the bank, in a savings account sometimes, you will earn interest. The bank pays you just a tiny bit, it's usually not very much, pays you a tiny bit of money for trusting them to hold on to your money. Interest is calculated at a certain percentage rate, and we call that the interest rate. And again, notice it says percentage, so this is always a percent when we find it in the problem. The original amount deposited or borrowed, or sometimes we might call that the initial amount deposited or borrowed, is called the principal. And it's spelled like your school principal, but it's not the same thing. So it's the amount that we start with. If you borrow that $1,000, the $1,000 is your principal. If you have $250 in your savings account to start with, that is the principal, the starting amount, the initial amount. The interest calculated only on the principal is called simple interest. Later we will talk about compound interest, and it is different. So simple interest. You've dealt with simple interest before. The simple interest formula is I equals PRT. So notice I stands for the interest, P stands for the principal, R stands for the rate, and notice it needs to be in a decimal form. That's super important. And then time, and time has to be in the form of years, so that's also very important. Okay, so let's look at the examples. You're definitely going to want a calculator to work through these, and I'm going to show you on my calculator in just a second. So it says find the interest earned on $3,600 at 3.5% simple interest for 5 years. Okay, so we're still doing we're doing simple interest, which is I equals PRT. So I want you to notice here, $3,600, this is how much we're initially investing, so that is our principal. So we're going to say I equals 3,600. The rate, the R, here is our interest rate. But what I want you to notice is this is a percent. And remember, we have to change this to a decimal. So the first thing I'm going to do is write this as 3.5%. Now you're probably thinking, Miss Adams, that's a decimal, we're done. But this is not. This is a decimal that's a percent. So this is still being stated in a percent. Remember, percents are always out of 100. You may have learned the little saying, Dr. Pepper, decimal to percent, percent to decimal. We just have to move our decimal 2 places to the left because it's out of 100. We're dividing it by 100. So this interest rate is 0.035 in a decimal. And that is probably the trickiest thing out of the whole concept today. And then T stands for our time. Our time is 5 years. So all we have to do is fill in the formula. And so now I'm going to pick up my calculator, and I'm going to pull up my Desmos app because I feel like that is going to be the best option for you guys right now. And so I'm going to type in, what did we have? 3,600 times 0.035 times 5. Now, one reason I really like this app is it's like a graphing calculator because you can see exactly all the numbers you typed in. So all those errors we keep making could be prevented if we would look at our Desmos app and use that a little bit more. And you can also use it on the computer. So notice I get $630. So that means I would earn $630. And that's it. Okay. Okay, let's look at the next one. Find the interest. And I want you to notice it's really important that we notice what it's asking us to find, and you're going to see why in just a second. It says find the interest earned on $500 at 8% simple interest for 6 months. So again, we're doing I equals PRT. Our principal is $500. That's how much we invested or started with. Here is our interest rate. Now remember, we have to take 8% and change it to a decimal. Here's the current decimal, and I'm going to move it 2 places to the left. So in a decimal, that would be 0.08. So times 0.08. And then our time, notice, says 6 months. But over here, we said that time has to be in years. Okay, so think about that. What is 6 months in years? That's 6 out of 12 months. And 6 out of 12 is 1/2. Or if you want to write it as a decimal, it would be 0.5. So either way, you could put 1/2 or you could put 0.5. Okay, so again, I'm going to pick up my calculator. 500 times 0.08 times 0.5, and I like this because I have really big fingers, and so I want to make sure that oops, and see, look, I didn't type it in right because I didn't put 0.5. There we go. Okay, and so that would tell me that I would only earn $20 in interest. Not very much. Simple interest does not accumulate very fast. Okay, now, here's the next thing. It says the principal in an account plus the interest earned is called the balance. Okay, so if we take the principal and we add the interest, that gives me the balance. And they usually use the letter A to represent that final balance, okay? So sometimes, excuse me, sometimes we just want to know the interest, but sometimes you want to know how much you actually have in your account. So let's look at an example where we have to calculate this. Find the account balance. A teacher invests $205 that earns 8% simple interest. Find the balance after 10 years. So with simple interest, we still have to go through and find the interest. Our principal is $205. The interest rate was 8%, so just again remember, here's your decimal, 2 places to the left, so 0.08. Our time is 10. So I have to first do this multiplication with my calculator. So let's see, that would be 205 times 0.08 times 10. Okay, which is 164. So my interest is $164, but we want the balance. So now I have to take my $205 and I have to add 164 to that. That's pretty easy to do by hand, but I'm still using my calculator. I'm still doing it. And that would just mean that I now have an account balance of $369. So really important as we work through this assignment today, make sure, is it just asking for interest and all you have to do is use the formula? Or is it asking for your total amount or your balance, and you have to go one step further and add the interest and the principal to get your answer.